Rivers do not drink their own water. Trees do not eat their own fruit. The sun does not shine on itself, and flowers do not spread their fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. We are all born to help each other. No matter how difficult it is, life is good when you are happy, but much better when others are happy because of you.
Welcome back, and we apologize for that technical hitch that we've just had. But as I said, the show must continue, so let's see what I can do for right now. And we just go straight to the climatic conditions today on some of the key cities across the continent of Africa. Johannesburg, 27 degrees on the high side and 14 degrees Celsius on the lower side, and it is expected to be partly cloudy today. In Johannesburg, in Nairobi, highs of 23 degrees Celsius and lows of 16 degrees Celsius. It is expected also to be partly cloudy here. And mostly in Accra, Ghana, it's going to be cloudy with highs of 31 degrees Celsius and lows of 25 degrees Celsius. In Dakar, Senegal, is going to be a clear day there with highs of 24 degrees Celsius and lows of 19 degrees Celsius. And in Abuja, Nigeria, is going to be cloudy with highs of 31 and lows of 22. In Kinshasa, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, highs of 32 degrees Celsius and lows of 22 degrees Celsius, and it's going to be mostly cloudy there. In Luanda, that is in Angola, it's going to be mostly cloudy with highs of 31 degrees Celsius and lows of 25 degrees Celsius. And in Khartoum, it's going to be sunny there with highs of 32 degrees Celsius and lows of 16 degrees. And Addis Ababa, it's going to be also mostly sunny with highs of 23 degrees Celsius and lows of 12 degrees Celsius. And then I think that is what we have on some of the climatic conditions from some key cities across the continent of Africa. However your weather pattern is today, I think you dress appropriately and find ways to enjoy it. So you are now up to date. So I'll just get into some of the stories that I'd like for us to look at this morning. And I think before we get into the politics of it, happiness report was released yesterday. I know you don't know. We're just familiar with what the chaos that was happening yesterday in different cities across Africa, the demonstrations. But actually, yesterday was World Happiness Day. And yesterday marked 10 years since this day was designated by the United Nations. Sorry. And it has been 10 years since the first World Happiness Report was published, and it is exactly 10 years since the United Nations General Assembly adopted Resolution 66/281, proclaiming 20th March to be observed annually as International Day of Happiness. Now, since then, more and more people have come to believe that our success as countries should be judged by the happiness of our people. There is also growing consensus about how happiness should be measured. This consensus means that national happiness can now become an operational objective for governments. Before I let you know where we rank and some top 10 African countries, which will shock you. Let's see the first top 10 in the world. And of course, number one, 6 years in a row, is Finland, which is the world's happiest country, according to World Happiness Report ranking, based largely on life evaluations from the Gallup World poll. The Nordic country and its neighbors Denmark, Iceland, Sweden and Norway all score very well on the measures that report uses to explain its findings, which these are just some of the parameters they use to come up with this statistics on how happy we are. They'll look at the healthy life expectancy, the GDP per capita, social support in the country, the level of corruption in a country, generosity in a community where people look after each other, and freedom to make key life decisions. So those are just some of the parameters they use to determine how happy a country is based on how a country is performing in this area. So it's quite something now. Now Israel moved up to number 4 this year from its ninth position ranking last year. So Israel is doing well as far as happiness is concerned. And the Netherlands this year was number 5, Switzerland was number 8, Luxembourg at number 9, and New Zealand at number 10. And that is the roundup of the top 10 countries. Surprise, surprise. There are key countries that perhaps you would have expected to be up, the top 10 large as far as happiness is concerned, but no. Australia comes in at number 12, Canada at number 13, Ireland is just happy being at number 14. That is where the country ranks as far as happiness is concerned. And by the way, this survey was carried out, I think, around 150 countries worldwide. So the United States comes at number 15, and the United Kingdom, the happiness is just at number 19 worldwide. And that is all that we had in top 20 of world, the ones who are happy across the world. So anyway, once again, the list of world's happiest countries has been released, shedding light on the nations where people enjoy the highest levels of well-being and satisfaction with their lives. The World Happiness Report, a publication of the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network, has used statistical analysis to determine the world's happiest countries. Okay, now the ranking considers a range of economic, social, and environmental factors, as I have mentioned there. And the global happiness has not taken a hit in the 3 years of the COVID-19 pandemic, and life evaluations from 2020 to 2022 has been remarkably resilient, the report says, with the global averages basically in line with the 3 years preceding the pandemic. And so let's look at the top happiest countries in Africa. I was looking at this list and I was just perplexed, to say the least. So the first country that is happiest in the continent is Mauritius, and followed by, this shocked me, followed by Libya. Yeah, with all the chaos that is going and the war, the conflict that is ongoing in Libya, Libya can afford to be number 2 in Africa as far as the happiest country is concerned. Quite interesting, isn't it? And then Ivory Coast comes at number 3, South Africa number 4. How can they be so happy with these problems with power and all these things, and they're always protesting? Well, we seem to be joining that group now. They seem to be having so much complaining about, but apparently they're not badly off, as they're supposed to be happy, and they rank at number 4 in Africa. And the Gambia comes in at number 5, Algeria at number 6, Liberia number 7, Congo, the Republic of Congo, interesting, number 8, and Morocco comes in at number 9, and then Mozambique closes down the list on the top 10 Africa happiest countries. Now my country, my dear country Kenya, is not on that list. Okay, I wonder why, because I'm looking at some countries up here who have made it to this list, and I'm just trying to compare on this on these barometers they use as far as finding out how how happy countries are. And I don't know how apart we are. Of course, I don't have the statistics to support it. I'm assuming the United Nations indeed does have, to support how the statistics and the findings and how happy we are here. But apparently, there's nothing to smile about here. In Kenya, our shilling is dipping, and the rate of unemployment, I think the country was hit so hard with COVID-19, and so many other countries also have suffered. But Kenya is not on top of that list. Neither is Uganda, neither is Rwanda. You would think Rwanda is supposed to be the top 10, with all this progress that our President Kagame has been making in improving the lives of Rwandese, and these kinds of changes, his administration is accredited to bringing to Rwanda, and but no, that did not happen. And then also Ghana, it's just one of those countries that I was hoping people could be happy there. Maybe the rest of us are in the top 20 or something, but even Ghana is not on the top 10 of happy countries in Africa. Neither is Nigeria, so this is quite something, but the top country that is happiest in the continent is Mauritius. I'm not really surprised. I think Mauritius is just one of those even stable democracies across the continent of Africa, and I think also the levels of corruption, I think that's what they're looking at. The levels of corruption was a bit low. But if that should be the case, then South Africa, which what is even crippling its a key sector like the energy sector, their power sector there is something to do with corruption. They're so corrupt that ANC could not even afford money to hold its annual conference as a national party, so they had to have this Russian oligarch funding that convention I was telling you about last week. I think it was held over a week ago. And so, but South Africa still finds itself at number 4 in Africa as far as the happiest country is concerned. One of the happy countries. So the ranking, as I said, considers a range of economic, social, and environmental factors and offers insights into what makes a country a place to live, a great place to live. Well, and I think they paid so much attention to benevolence, to others, especially the helping of strangers, which went up. Benevolence is just you being kind. So I thought with all our traditions and cultures, we are very kind people, Ubuntu and all these things that we preach, but apparently not. Apparently not. I don't know if I can find out the first African country, and how far, what number was our first country here. Let me see if I can find that very quickly. Well, as I say, the report, which is a publication of the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network, draws a global survey data from people in more than 150 countries. Countries are ranked on happiness based on their average life evaluations over the 3 preceding years. In this case, from 2020 to 2022, and this is something that was introduced by the United Nations 10 years ago. So this year, yesterday, while we were having all this chaos around the continent, was actually World Happiness Day. So if you were not happy and you were involved in all this, then you know why your country is not in this list of happy countries. Okay, now the report was released on Monday and identifies the happiest nations, those at the very bottom of the happiness scale, and everything in between, plus the factors that tend to lead to a greater happiness. Now we need to find, this is what we need to work on as a country, and we need to find out these factors that tend to lead to a greater happiness. I think happiness is something that a lot of us would want to be part of and to embrace and to enjoy. It's a good thing to be happy, but I think happiness in this situation is really subjective and relative. Yeah. So March 20th is the International Day of Happiness, a day designated by the United Nations that marks its 10th anniversary in 2023. And of course, Finland has been there for 6 years now. This is perhaps where we need to go and do a benchmark, and find out how is it that you have afforded to be happy 6 years in a row. What's really going on there? So France dropped off the top 20 list to 21. Of course, I mean, France, people cannot be happy. Have you seen the protests that have been ongoing now for weeks on end in France? The French asking for their president to resign over some issues that his government is not really addressing very well. And at the very bottom of the list is Afghanistan at number 137, and Lebanon is one rank above at number 136. And average life evaluation in these countries are more than 5 points lower than in the 10 happiest countries. Now, Russia's invasion of Ukraine put both countries very much in a global spotlight, and the 2022 report was released. So where does these two countries stand according to the latest survey? Well, being in Ukraine has definitely taken a hit, but despite the magnitude of suffering and damage in Ukraine, life evaluations in September 2022 remained higher than in the aftermath of 2014 annexation. Remember when Russia annexed Crimea? Remember that story? Okay, supported now by a stronger sense of common purpose, benevolence, which I've explained to you is just the act of being kind and caring, and trust in Ukrainian leadership. Okay, so Volodymyr Zelensky seems to have inspired some sense of confidence to his people in the face of this invasion. Now, confidence in their governments grew in both countries in 2022, the survey say, but much more in Ukraine than in Russia. Yeah, and Ukraine's support for the leadership in Russia fell to 0. In this year's rankings, Russia is number 70. So Russians are all the way at 70 as far as their happiness is concerned, and Ukraine is at number 92. So Ukraine is doing badly. Of course, they can't be happy. All right, they cannot be happy. And Germany is at number 16. I see there the United Nations, the United States is at number 15. Lithuania is at number 20. I wanted to see where the first African country on this list, our first happiest country, that is Mauritius, where it ranks as far as this happiness situation is concerned. I can't seem to find it, I can't seem to find it, but as I said there, Mauritius is the happiest country in Africa, followed by Libya. How is that even possible? How is Libya happier than us? We enjoy relative stability. We've been a little calm, apart from whatever we are seeing happening now, and many other countries across, sub-Sahara, but no. So it's quite intriguing. Are you not intrigued, by this report? But that is what they were able to find out. So perhaps our countries will work hard to see that next time we are top on that list, because we want to be very happy. We want to be happy. We want to be top of the world, happy, and not way back there. So okay, so let's just perhaps move on to other news that I'd like for us to talk about this morning, now that you know how happy you are or you're not, and perhaps how you can push your government to help you achieve that. Let's head over to Ethiopia. And the US says it has determined that all warring parties in the brutal war in the northern Ethiopia have committed war crimes. Speaking on Monday, U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, who visited Ethiopia last week, met Ethiopian government and the Tigrayan officials, said his department had carefully reviewed the laws and the facts to determine the crimes. He accused members of the Ethiopian National Defense Force, Eritrean Defense Forces, Tigray's People Liberation Front and Amara forces of committing war crimes during the 2-year bloody conflict. He also blamed the Ethiopian and Eritrean Defense Forces as well as Amara forces of committing crimes against humanity, including murder, rape and other forms of sexual violence and prosecution. He urged the governments of Ethiopia and Eritrea as well as the TPLF to hold those responsible for these atrocities accountable. None of the accused forces have commented yet in the latest accusations. A landmark cessation of hostilities agreement was signed in November 2022 between Ethiopian government and the TPLF, ending the conflict believed to have cost hundreds of thousands of lives. And on Tuesday, the UN Human Rights Council is expected to hear a briefing of a commission of human rights experts on Ethiopia, an independent group mandated to investigate the reported human rights crimes. Okay. This is quite something because Blinken was in Ethiopia last week. And while he was there, because we had this conversation, he seemed to have had such a wonderful time. He went and had the great Ethiopian coffee with some of the leaders there. And on top of that, he promised the Ethiopian government a huge amount of money, over 300 million US dollars, in aid of rebuilding this area that was, attacked during this period of time, the Tigray region, which really was destroyed during this 2-year conflict. But while he was in Ethiopia, he did not sound it appeared to be a very friendly visit. Why couldn't Blinken say what he's saying now in the US soil? Why could he not say it while he was in Ethiopia, while he was there with the leadership of Ethiopia? Stand there next to each other and say, from what the reports that we're receiving, this is what is happening, and this is the reports that we're getting from what happened during that 2-year conflict. But instead, he visited, had a good time, promised how much support the US was going to give to the Ethiopian government in rebuilding and other things, and then now goes to Washington and makes the statement. So now the US now is saying it has determined that all these members, and I think that is absolutely true, from the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, from the Eritrean Defense Forces, Tigray's People's Liberation Front forces, and Amara forces. They all committed war crimes. All sides committed war crimes. I think several other bodies and investigations have shown the same, because Tigrayans were also not fighting with sticks. Yeah, they were fighting with guns and bullets, and they were also killing as much as the Ethiopian forces were also killing. And of course, the Eritrean forces were there for just the killing spree. So it was just a killing party over there that happened in the Tigray region that claimed so many lives. You can't even get a definite number. But if it can be allowed, the place can be allowed and opened up, and people can give records and reports of their loved ones that they have lost, that they cannot account for, then maybe we can get a true picture of how many lives were lost during this period of madness in Ethiopia. Because I have repeated and I've said before, we can't find peace, and we can't move, the country cannot move on until the issue of healing is addressed, until Ethiopia is able to reconcile with itself. And one of the components to ensure a proper reconciliation is accountability that will show that justice indeed has happened. Now, how Ethiopians choose to look for accountability, I think that should be left for them. I don't know if it should be left for them, but that should be left for them, because there are several means of resolving a conflict, and one of them could be, just maybe moving on, compensating, and talking about it, and not bringing anybody to book. That is one way. If you look at perhaps if punitive measures could be applied, then that might just make the situation worse. So you also have to weigh, when you're looking at a conflict management and when you're looking at a particular situation, and you look at all sides. If we take these people to jail, if we set up a court and everybody is tried, who is going to be tried on behalf of the Defense Forces of Ethiopia, for instance? The Prime Minister. The buck stops with him. So there's a high likelihood not him, but maybe also him, and other key members, leaders, or in the Ethiopian government could be held responsible. And other key actors from the TPLF side who were ordering, who were leaders and the ringleaders, could also be held accountable, and the Amara. And of course, I don't know what we're going to do with the Eritrean forces, because Isaias Afwerki does not care. Him fitting within the fabric of the international system, and he doesn't care about that. I think he's used to being how he is running Eritrea, how he runs Eritrea. The sanctions have been there for God knows how long. He, at this point, he's just, he doesn't care. And I mean, the US considers Eritrea a pariah state anyway, so I don't think it's even concerned. But it is a member of the African Union, so that concerns us. So Eritrea also must be answerable to its part in these atrocities. And why the African Union has not directly spoken to this matter, I don't understand. Even during the mediation process, Eritrea's name was not brought in, and Eritrea was not held accountable for its part. But anyway, nobody has been held accountable yet. And so the US now is saying that atrocities happened, and so there has to be some level of accountability. And members of the ENDF, that is the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, the Eritrean forces, the Amara forces, also committed crimes against humanity. All right, and the members of the Amara forces also committed the crime against humanity of deportation, of forcibly transfer, and committed ethnic cleansing through their treatment of the Tigrayans in the western Tigray, Blinken said. Okay, so the determination comes after the top US diplomat's trip to Ethiopia last week, where he praised progress in implementing. That's what he did. That's why I'm so shocked that when he goes back to the US, he adopts a different tune. But when he was in Ethiopia last week, these are things he was supposed to say while he was standing there during that press conference and saying, this is what the report that we have received. And as the US, this is the position that we take. You don't go there, sit, have coffee, have a wonderful day, promise to give money. Sorry. I apologize for that. I have a serious problem today, and I don't know if I can go really farther. So probably I'll just leave this conversation maybe here. But hopefully the US will go farther than just issuing these threats and doing nothing in return. And I'm just hoping that it will push for accountability. But at the end of the day, I think accountability should that Right, I apologize. So as much as I'd like to push for another 15 minutes, I can't. My throat just can't allow me. So hopefully in the afternoon, I'll be feeling much better and we can continue with some of this information that I had for us this morning. Please bear with me and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you later. Bye-bye for now.